to oh yeah, thank you, Hannah. If you want to share your screen or anything, feel free to do that.
Is it not screen sharing? It shows screen sharing. Do you not see it?
I do see it. It may be in not sure which mode. Like I can see a couple different.
Mine shows presentation mode. So hold on 1 second. No, let me do it in changing the mode really quickly. Is it showing in presenter mode now?
Yes, it looks similar to before, but yeah, you can definitely see like on the left side the slide that you have pulled up. So that
So strange. I have it in presenter. So sorry about that.
Yep.
So good thing is I'm not giving you any information on technology. So because then you I would be the wrong person, definitely not an expert in that. Yes, I can't figure out why it's not showing how I have it in presenter mode, but so anyways, I'm Mara Smith. And I'm the founder and CEO of as you mentioned, of Inspiro Tequila. But I guess, why am I here talking to you about community and community building? And this is a little bit about kind of my trajectory in my career and lots of pivots. But basically, like a million years ago, I was a lawyer at a large law firm in Chicago. I'm based in Chicago. And then I left to work in corporate strategy. So I decided to like leave the legal side, and my background before that, actually, my undergrad was in accounting. I got my CPA. So I decided to go to the business side. So I worked in corporate strategy. Um, Ended up becoming pregnant with my oldest children, who are twins and great and in college, but I ended up on emergency bed rest, and then had preemie twins. So my corporate career came to a screeching halt very abruptly and not planned. Really fortunate that I had the decision and the option to leave the workforce, but I did, and then had another child 9.5 years later. Why is this relevant to community building? Well, I was out of the workforce for over 16 years, still working really hard in my home, but out of the workforce. So when I had this great idea to start a company, I was like, oh, I have like a really great carpool network. I have no business network because I've been out for so long. So I had to very, very deliberately build a network and a community. So I founded Inspiro Tequila in February 2020. Impeccable timing for the entire world shut down and couldn't get to Mexico for production. Um, I knew I wanted to start a company. I knew it wanted to be a consumer product in food or beverage. I'm like a super consumer. I love taste testing everything. The reason it became tequila was kind of like two things. One, I'd been a tequila drinker for years. I did not realize that everything I was drinking contained undisclosed additives. So I wanted something additive free, but still really approachable. And I also saw an opportunity to focus on a consumer that's generally overlooked in spirits, which is a female consumer. So women make up 54% of tequila drinkers, but brands don't focus on her. And I wanted to do that by authentically addressing her and having women involved in every aspect of our company. So like you mentioned, Parker, we are actually distilled, owned, and led by all women. And we're one of only 12 spirits brands across all categories that's actually certified women-owned by WeBank, which is significant because that's like a very big part of my community. So why is it important to have a community? Well, I mean, being a founder, as many of you probably know, it's really lonely and a lonely journey. And where do you find resources, or where do you go and ask people for questions? Like, this is great. You have a community right here, and people could put an ask out there. But I found that I, didn't have like a full team. I wasn't hiring a big, C-suite of people, or a million consultants. We had to be really scrappy. So it was really important that I found people to go and ask questions to and talk to. And this actually has ended up being probably the best part of the entire journey is that I have this like really great, supportive and collaborative community now. So when you think about where to start, and actually every year now we're a certified B Corp social impact company. And so every year we provide like a small grant to another female founder. And it's a community connections grant. So it's very specific to like finding, allowing her, because it could be cost prohibitive. It's like a $2,500 grant that goes to a female founder every year. And then I mentor her for that year because not every organization or network is the right one for everybody. And that took me some learning too, as far as like which are the right ones. So I always look at like first starting kind of like closer in, and that's like within your particular industry. So for me, that would be like the spirits industry. So I became involved in different spirit organizations, like the one that represents the wholesaler tier, the one that represents craft brands, one that represents women. It's called Women Divine and Spirits. So really within spirits, that part of it, one, you can get some expert knowledge. Also, when you look right within your industry, it helps build some credibility. So here I came in as a total unknown outsider to the spirits industry that many people have been in for years and years. So how am I going to build some credibility? Well, that was me getting involved, participating, doing pitch competitions that were held by the industry. So I kind of looked at that, but I think you have to go really much wider. And I often think people close off looking at like other verticals, thinking they're not going to learn from them. But I think there's a lot to learn if you go wider. Then I looked to the kind of wider beverage alcohol industry, especially for me. Everyone who had an introduction, I would take to meet like another founder or someone in the industry just to learn. Um, and then I also connected with pretty much every woman I could find who had a brand. There are not that many of us. So, or less than like 5% of spirits brands are owned by women. So I would try and reach out and connect and just taking in all those learnings. Like I like to say I'm a learn it all and not a know it all. So I go in and just want guidance and I want to, hear from people and get their ideas. Then I look beyond alcohol into like just beverage, right? And then bigger consumer products. I think there are some innovative ideas that people do and how they talk to our particular consumer and do things maybe differently than spirits brands who are kind of very traditional. And so looking wider than that. And then the kind of biggest scope for me was big, like large women's networking organizations that cover a span from service related to product. And actually, that was the first thing I did was um, I found organizations that were just all like women and female founders or things like that across everything, all different types of verticals. And that's how I found someone to help me with PR. And that's how I found someone to help me with paid ads. So there are so many resources. And I looked for ones where you could put out like an ask and get a lot of answers back and connect with people. At the time, because I did this and started during COVID, it was mostly virtual connections. I've kind of shifted a little bit now, and we'll get to that, finding some organizations that do some more in person as well. It's a little higher touch, but so how do you find people? It's like a web. There are people everywhere, right? So I started out like really small, like just going to my personal network. One friend would be like, "Oh, I know this person. You should meet them. They can help you here." And I just took every introduction and I just say yes. Someone says, "Do you want to meet this person?" And I think that's hard. And it's really hard. We all have very limited time, but I say yes because you never know where that's going to lead. That person can also make the next person make a great introduction. So I generally say yes, and I'll set up a 30-minute meeting with like anybody that I get the intro to. Um, I would learn about people watching things like this, like, oh, I watched a presentation, someone gave a webinar, and I literally reach out afterwards because I thought what they said was interesting or I could learn from them. Podcasts. I've reached out to many, many people. I listen to a ton of podcasts, especially with founder stories, and I'll reach out to people there that I've heard or reach out to be on that podcast. So anytime I hear something that interests me, and then within networking organizations, and then, LinkedIn, we'll talk about that a little bit more too, because LinkedIn is, I'm a huge fan of how you can utilize LinkedIn effectively. Um, but I think there, it's not just who comments on kind of like what you post, but it's like looking and following at what other people are saying. And I'll go through and see um someone, it'll be a mutual connection. I'll see someone commenting on that, and then I'll look them up and figure out, oh, I should also connect with them. Um, and LinkedIn, I've found there are actually people that now I'm like friends with. Like someone reached out, like, I'm gonna be in town. Can we have coffee? So I actually feel like there's a real good personal connection that you could do with LinkedIn. Now this one, sorry, is showing very small, which is like, I hate anything that shows up in small font, but my presenter mode, but I'd say outreach. How you do outreach is really important. And I have never once sent anything to anyone like, can I pick your brain? If someone sends me something like, I'd like to hear more about what Inspiro does, kind of like, well, couldn't you just looked at our website? Then you'll know exactly what I do. Or I heard you're the founder of, what exactly do you do? So um you see that's like an actual one that was from my LinkedIn. Like it shows how that it's not personal or understanding me at all. Like, hello, I'm interested in your upcoming position. I'm like, well, I didn't post a position. So that is a very impersonal way. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to zoom in this. Now, if you look at things that I've written as LinkedIn messages, it takes a lot more time and thought, but it's like going in and looking like you're prepared and you've done your homework and asking for something very specific. I think that is the most important thing. Almost all the time someone responds. Very few times, and you also have to let that like slide. I don't take anything personally. Maybe they don't check it, maybe they didn't look, but if you go in with something very specific, and especially showing that you like researched them or learned about them. I literally just reached out to like the founder of this like huge, like is this huge apparel company that she sold for a lot of money. And I listened to her on a podcast. I was like, oh wow. And I reached out with something very specific about what I thought, how she targeted her consumers and what she did and how she had a scrappy team without having full-time people. And I was interested in that, reach out, and then she connected and we had a Zoom. So, and I learned a ton from her. But that's what I would say is like, I kind of sometimes I feel like it maybe a little bit like stalkerish because it looks like I have a lot of information on them. But I just think you can never be over prepared and coming in and talking about something very specific. And I'd say that is the key to get people to respond on LinkedIn because people are so used to getting these like cold emails that are just like kind of sales emails. And if you really want to engage with someone, come in looking like you did your homework. And then it's really important, at this point, I've connected with so many people and I always think I'll remember everything. Kind of like with my kids, I'm like, oh, I'll remember when they did that. I don't remember anything. So I track it. For me, and I told you this from the beginning, but I'm super low tech. Airtable is my favorite way to track like everything. So we have Airtable for everything. It's like we can have a database. I have one for marketing assets. I have one for sales outreach. So I have a personal CRM, um, basically database on Airtable that I track everything and how I met them. Very important, I would say, putting there is like who made the introduction, how you met them. Because sometimes like you want to remember that reference and then they'll go back and say, oh, I'm so glad so and so introduced us, and I'll forget who that connection was. So I track, you know, how I met them, who they are, their contact information. Um, Even now, I started tracking like where they're located. So let's say I am going to be in a city and I'm like, oh, I'd love to meet up with them. I know kind of where they're located, when we last spoke, if there's any follow up. Um, every once in a while I'll go through and be like, oh, I should do a touch base and to see what's going on. So I think it's important to track all that unless you have like a much better memory than me. Um, and then follow up, like, every time you have a meeting, which is even something I often have to work on because it's like, "Oh my gosh, one more email to send," but just thanking someone and following up. Here's another, I think, misperception for a lot of people that when you're reaching out to people and you're looking for guidance or maybe they're ahead of you, like, "Well, what am I gonna offer back?" And I actually think that there's always something you can provide back. I mean, I talk to people who are, exited, like I told you, she exited company. I'm like, oh, there's a podcast that's talking about women getting funding and exiting. I think you'd be good for that. Do you want me to introduce you? So I think constantly thinking the ways that you can connect, because as you build that network, thinking of how you can refer someone or connect them. Um, I feel like there's always something that you can add and that's additive, no matter, even if you're a smaller company. And then I look at this as, I specifically refer this as like my community. Because I really feel connected to so many of the people that are part of this, and that it's more of a relationship building than, you know, that it's not like networking, and that it's meant to be like relationship building and really, find people that kind of either on the path. I mean, I'll see someone that I know, a founder, and I'll look and like, oh, they have a website, new website. And then I can reach out. Who did your website? Who created your website for you? Like all those things so you can get resources and have like people to go to, I find is really important. But it requires following up and just checking in every once in a while. Like I'll see someone posted like, oh, they did something or they had, they launched in a retailer, and I'll see someone that I know that just launched in Walmart and make sure to, you know, reach out, congratulate them, and comment. And I think on LinkedIn, a lot of people, the like button is like not doesn't do anything, but commenting, writing something back to people, that is kind of much more significant. So checking in, as I mentioned, being a learn it all. So just taking it all in, like feedback, suggestions. You don't have to follow everything that everybody tells you, but it's just good to like, I just like getting, as much education as possible from people across all different verticals and seeing how people do things differently. Cause maybe there's a different way of thinking of things. I think the hard part I talked about being an industry outsider is I had to like, earn some credibility. The good part about being an industry outsider is often that's where you find a lot of innovation, and you can take innovation ideas from like lots of different people. So, and find people that you otherwise never would have been connected with. And so basically for me, I've just been like amazed at the type of rooms I end up in and the people I get to connect with. Like um it's, really fascinating, and I often feel honored just to be in the room. So this is my LinkedIn, so definitely connect with me. Um, and that's my email, and Inspiro Tequila is @Inspiro Tequila is our Instagram. So with that, any questions?
Yeah, thanks so much, Mara. Really appreciate that. A lot of great advice there. I do have a question or two that I can kind of start out with as you guys
Sure.
are thinking, add it in the chat or just come off mute. One of the questions I had is, as I was thinking about this, you're building your network. Like that was kind of the feeling that you got after being at home for a bit and wanting to start this company. Um, how did that translate to like helping you grow in Spirit Tequila? Like when you meet with someone, let's say they're interesting, you have similarities. How do you then take the next step and like work together or find some way to kind of benefit from that relationship?
Yes. And I find that like almost every one of those leads to another introduction, leads to something. Like a great example, yesterday, had a meeting, and this woman who's marketing at this other restaurant came out. Oh, have you met this person? They're opening, happens to be local to me, like a big pickleball club, and they're going to have drinks. Great. Yes. Please introduce me. And then I'll talk to them. Or, a speaking engagement or opportunity. Someone found me on LinkedIn, funny enough, and there was like Heinz Properties, right? The property management group. Reach out, saw I was in Chicago. She's like, hey, would you do tenant tastings at our, in our big office buildings in the city and do tenant tastings? Sure. So generally those things open a door. And even if it's not like necessarily getting business from it, but let's say I get the opportunity to be part of a panel or a discussion, or um, especially events. Like I do a lot of like professional organization events, as opposed to, I always tease, I don't do like boozy festivals, music festivals, anything where no one knows what they drink, like 3 drinks in, like I like try and avoid, but we do a
Hmm.
lot of professional events. So someone always has like someone they want to introduce me to, or like how I got involved in like doing the drinks at Chicago Tech Week here when I have no tech background, as we all know now. And that we were there and I got to have a pop-up table and do and sample and then be there and listen to presentations. So that's kind of, I feel like I rarely find that any meeting is like not useful.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome. Thank you. Looks like Allison was asking, why do you use Airtable versus Google Sheets for your community CRM?
Um, there are a number of reasons. I'm a very loyal Excel person, and maybe that's because my accounting background. So Google Sheets like drives me crazy because it does not have the same capabilities. And if you're an Excel person and it doesn't work the same, it's like I can't stand it. But um the reason is Airtable. I like the setup and the functionality, and that I can easily share like different tables with different people. I know you could do it in Google Sheets too, but like literally we have like everything there. We have like all our assets are in a thing, all our permits are in a database. So for me, I think it's like a very well organized format. Also, so many people share Google documents with me. I can't find anything. And that's my own bad. But like literally for our social media agency shares a Google Doc. And then this person shares a Google Doc and I can't find like any of our stuff. So for me, it's like a very easy way to track it and find it really quickly.
Thanks.
And now I just gave a promo. I mean, I don't get paid or anything by Airtable. I just happen to really like them. So
Yeah, good to know.
Oh, that's great. Anyone else, of course, feel free to hop off and unmute yourself and ask a question as well. I just capitalized on some time here. Again, anyone hop off, interrupt me, or put it in the chat. But I was curious if you have any advice for those of us who may be a bit more like shy in terms of meeting new people, starting these types of conversations. Anything that you've learned as you've kind of put yourself out there more?
yes, I say that I made an introvert become an extrovert. And I just had to, so there's a couple of things I think about. I used to get really nervous about doing things like this or doing interviews, especially when I'd be asked a lot of questions. And now I've done like I love podcasts. So I've done tons of podcast interviews. Um, and someone gave me the tip. They're like, no one's going to ask you something about your business that you don't know. And if you kind of go in with that mentality that like, you know, everything there is to know about whatever you're talking about and your business, no one knows more than you. I feel like that gave me a different like kind of comfort level going in and talking to people. And I also think for someone who is like, shyer, um, one-on-ones actually is an easier format and coming in prepared. Like think of the things you want to talk about, the things you want to specifically ask. I feel like that is helpful. But a one-on-one, if it's a Zoom, I think one Zoom kind of puts the screen up. You're like have some like, there's not the physical proximity of like meeting in person. And two, a lot easier than walking into like a room full of people and then finding people you want to talk to and people are in like groups and clustered. Like I find that much more difficult to navigate than
Mhm.
setting up that one-on-one meeting. And I would just come in knowing like what you want to talk about. Just the conversation may take a totally different direction, but at least you're coming in with like some list of things that you really want to like learn about. I generally do that anytime I set up because I feel like I have like a great mentor and she's from a really large like spirits brand, but I know she has like 30 minutes once a month. So I come in and I'm like, okay, I got to get all these things hammered out and ask us, just being respectful of someone's time and making sure that I've like utilized it well.
Mm.
I have a question. So what would you say are the habits that you have around this? And you talked about it in the presentation, but would you say that you have specific like daily, weekly, monthly habits? And one of them is talking to your founder or your mentor, maybe that's a monthly habit. Could you talk more about some of your community building habits?
Yes. Well, one, I wish I was way more structured. I used to put it that like every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon from like 2 to 4, that's when I would do like meetings that are just kind of like connection, networking,
Mm,
and now that's like fallen off the wheels. And now it's
mhm.
like randomly throughout my week, my team goes crazy because they're like, oh, I talked to this person and this person. I'm like, oh my gosh. But so I haven't done that as much. I try to keep it in like some time. Like now, even I'm trying like, okay, maybe it's just 2 afternoons or something to schedule those meetings. Um, LinkedIn, I say I'm not consistent as much about posting, and that's because I don't plan them ahead of time, which is probably a great idea. I literally just post whenever I think of something, like something's on my
Mhm.
mind and I post it. I don't use AI. I don't know how to use AI. I write every single thing I post. Um, but I'd say I check in the morning, every morning on LinkedIn and every evening. I try not to look like constantly throughout the day. And one thing I'm pretty consistent about in the evening is replying to anyone who writes anything. If anyone writes a comment, I try to reply to like every single one. And I think that's really important because I think LinkedIn is totally about that going back and forth engagement. It's like it's less important on like an Instagram or something, but on LinkedIn, um, I generally do that and will go through and like comment on other people's posts and things like that. So I try and do that pretty regularly um every evening.
Cool, thanks.
Sure.
Just because you're touching on LinkedIn there, I'm curious, do you use any other platforms in terms of like reaching out to new people, or is it mostly LinkedIn that you're kind of finding engaging with people?
LinkedIn's the easiest way to get people, like in all honesty, to get to them. So sometimes like if I had an email, I would go through email. If I can't find someone, I'll go to their like company site sometimes and reach out through that. But I think LinkedIn's usually the easiest way, unless I hear like a great example. I was on a podcast, this Venture F podcast, and the next week she had a founder of this like wine company, and I'm like, oh, she was saying so many things that like resonated, were similar. So I just reached out directly. So often, if I hear something, I'll just reach out to someone, or I saw you're connected to that person. I reach out to the podcast host. I'm like, okay, would you mind, connecting us? I think I'd love to learn more from her and talk to her. So if there's ever a personal connection, I always go with that first. Like literally, it doesn't matter who it is. My aunt's like, "Oh, I met this cocktail maker, and like, like, would you like to talk to her?" I'm like, "Sure." And any personal connection always is easier. That warm intro. Um, but if not, it would be LinkedIn. Very rarely, but sometimes I'll do it via Instagram. And DM someone like literally last night there's like a cookie company, she was posting something, I post something about her, she's like, oh, and I said my son loves them, this is their favorite, would you like to collaborate? Like usually if something like collaborative, I will like DM someone or reach out through like Instagram.
Hmm.
But those would be probably the only platforms, and that's just because I try not to be on any other. I'm not personally in Spiro Tequilas, but I'm not personally on other social media platforms because that is enough for me to manage.
Great, thanks for sharing.
Of
It
course.
looks like there's a question from James here, and this will be kind of last question here, and then unless anyone else has something burning to pitch in. But James said, "Is there a trick to using your contacts to find who the decision makers are? How do you reach the decision maker?" And he also asked, "Could you repost your contact information?" So maybe if you want to put that
Oh,
screen up
sure.
again just for a moment. But
Yes, I'll put in the
yeah,
chat for you too.
okay, that's great.
Um, so I actually, this takes like a lot of sleuthing, and LinkedIn's a great one for that. So I'll see, like literally yesterday, I saw that someone reposted, a friend of mine who has a company, and she commented on it, and she's the head like diversity buyer for like Hilton hotels. And I'm like, oh, I noticed I like check everyone's backgrounds, and then I like go to connect with her. Um, so a lot of that, finding the decision maker, sometimes it's like by looking at other people's posts and seeing who's like commenting or liking something, and then I'll go and try and figure out who that person is. Um, so that that just depends. Obviously you want to get introductions that lead you to people like that, but often it's not I think it has to start a little bit organically. Like, I don't usually go in being like, I want to talk to you because you have like can you connect me to, all the Hyatt hotels in the country? Like, probably not. And that's not how I go in. I feel like one thing fosters, relationship, that I meet someone and they know someone who knows someone. So I think it's like a little bit of a longer term and kind of thing and outlook. And that I don't know that they're going to be immediately to the decision makers, but then sometimes they are. Like, this woman introduced me yesterday, I get an introduction, and this person's starting the pickleball clubs and they're gonna have cocktails. So perfect, and I can go right in. Um, but sometimes it just takes fostering like the first relationship to get to the next one to find someone. But I think I don't look at it as like I don't go in looking at like, okay, am I gonna get the sale? Am I gonna close the sale? I look at it as much more of like, you know, sharing, because maybe it's not a sale, maybe it's just a collaboration. Like, there's a great, some great companies that we just want to collaborate with. We want to do collaboration or partnership. We want to do a product with them, or we want to do a giveaway with them. So, and maybe it's not the head decision maker. Maybe it's just, maybe it's the person who runs their marketing to do that and does their social media marketing. So that's how I look at it a little bit, is that, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the buyer for me.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you so much. You mentioned maybe if you could.
I'm going to put my here. If you look at Mara Smith, I was finding my LinkedIn profile. Hold on a second. Since
Thank
I
you.
said
Yeah,
that
so
is the best way to find me.
perfect.
But yeah, please obviously feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and reach out. And if you were, shy and didn't want to ask a question, feel free to ask a question there. But I do
Thanks
answer
so
all my DMs unless you ask me like something random, like, I see you need solar power panels for your office. I'm like, no, don't really, no. No.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much. For me personally, that was really beneficial, really helpful, and I'm sure for a lot of us here. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming to Midday Connect. Hopefully we see you all next week. And again, thanks so much, Mara, and have a good week.
Thanks for
Talk to
having
you
me.
guys.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.